The airlock hissed open with a sound like a sigh, revealing a man slouched against the bulkhead, his left arm cradled awkwardly against his chest. Blood soaked the side of his uniform, deep red against the pale gray fabric. His name was Ferris Grant, and he had walked out of an explosion. By the core, muttered a voice in Varnic, the dominant language spoken aboard the medical outpost orbiting Icarus 3. 3 alien doctors stood frozen on the other side of the threshold. One was tall and lean, with translucent skin stretched over fine skeletal ridges. That was Dr. Huron, the team lead. Beside him stood 2 assistants. Tala, whose 4 arms twitched nervously, and M, who simply stared wide-eyed. Ferris stumbled forward. "I think I've got shrapnel in my ribs." Dr. Huron's voice was tight. "Do not move. You are severely wounded." "I figured," Ferris said, his lips pale. Then quieter. "It'll heal soon enough." The 3 doctors turned to each other. Tala made a high-pitched noise, confused. "He is bleeding out." "Why did he say that?" "He's delusional," Am said. "The blood loss is affecting his neural coherence." "No," Huron said. "He meant it." Ferris collapsed to his knees, breath shallow. "Little help. Get the stretcher," Huron snapped. Tala rushed off while Im crouched beside Ferris, peering into his face. "You should not be conscious." "Yeah, I get that a lot." Ferris gave a weak smile. "Guess I'm just stubborn." Moments later, they had him on the stretcher and moving down the corridor, sleek walls glowing blue with medical alert lights. Am kept his gaze on the human's chest, where the fabric had been torn away to reveal a jagged wound just under the clavicle. Blood still pulsed from it. The scanners were already reading elevated heart rate, signs of internal trauma, possible rib fracture. Why did he not call for help sooner? Tala asked as they rounded a corner. He launched himself from a damaged cargo shuttle, Huron said, eyes locked on the scan panel. He overrode safety protocols to reach us before the ship disintegrated. Inside the main infirmary, Ferris was transferred to a diagnostic table. Machines hummed and clicked into motion, scanning his body inch by inch. The images that appeared on the monitor showed a staggering list of injuries. Lacerations, multiple contusions, a possible fractured scapula, an embedded shrapnel near the lung. Dr. Huron blinked. "He needs surgery. Immediately." Tala, prepare the stabilizers. EM, notify the surgical team. Ferris groaned. "I'm right here, you know." "You should not be," EM said. A few hours later, Ferris lay unconscious, a breathing tube down his throat and his arm immobilized. His vitals had stabilized, but the damage had been worse than they expected. One rib had fractured in 2 places and the metal shard had narrowly missed puncturing his lung. Dr. Huron stood over him, arms behind his back. "He has no biological enhancements. No subdermal shielding. How is this species still alive?" "They adapt," Tala said. "Even without logic." EM tilted his head. "He said he would heal. And he meant it." The surgery had gone well, but Ferris would be down for weeks. Broken ribs took time to mend even with advanced regenerative assistance, and the soft tissue damage was extensive. There was no shortcut. Painkillers dulled the agony, but the healing was ordinary, slow by interstellar standards. Ferris opened his eyes 2 days later. He blinked at the ceiling, then at the strange, shimmering figure leaned over him. "Hey," he rasped. "How long was I out?" 49 hours, EM said. "You required intensive surgery. Please do not attempt to move." Ferris winced. "Not planning to." "You said," EM continued, "that the wound would heal soon enough." "How did you know?" Ferris took a slow breath. "Didn't know. Just hoped." "Fascinating," EM said. "So it was not certainty. It was belief." Dr. Huron entered then, tapping something on a floating screen. "Belief is statistically unreliable." He was seconds from death when he arrived. "You're welcome," Ferris muttered. "You should have died," Huron said blunt. "You forced the shuttle to breach atmosphere with a ruptured fuel line. No sane being would have done that." Ferris chuckled, then winced. "Probably why I'm not in psych." "You are not cleared for humor," Huron said. Noted. His recovery was slow. The first week, he couldn't walk without assistance. The second week, he was still on pain suppressors and monitored for internal hemorrhaging. Tala assisted with physical therapy, guiding him through low-intensity stretches while EM documented every moment. "You're watching me walk like I'm a zoo exhibit," Ferris muttered one day, sweat beading on his forehead as he struggled to lift his arm. "You are capable of movement despite your skeletal damage," EM replied. "That is unusual. It's called stubbornness. I have cataloged that term. It is used interchangeably with recklessness in your language." Ferris grunted. "That sounds about right." By the end of the third week, Ferris could walk across the infirmary without support. He still grimaced with each step, but he did it. Heron watched from across the room, arms folded. "He should still be in bed." "He wants to move," EM said. "He should not be able to move." Tala approached with a data pad. "The rib is mending. Not fully, but progressing. He is following recovery timelines. He is still damaged." "Of course," Tala said. "But he insists on motion." Later that day, Ferris sat on the edge of the bed, holding a small dish of food. Something bland and beige and supposedly nutritious. He poked at it. "You know this tastes like recycled insulation? That is because it is formulated to optimize cellular repair," EM said. Ferris stared at the spoon. "I'd heal faster with a burger." "No," EM said simply. 2 more days passed. Ferris was cleared to use the rehabilitation wing, a larger chamber filled with gravity-adjustable platforms and motion assist rails. He took his first real fall there, collapsing hard onto his side during a balance test. Dr. Heron was there in an instant. "You are not ready for full weight bearing." Ferris groaned, holding his side. "I slipped. You should not have attempted that without support." "I had support. I just let go early." "Why?" "Because I want to walk again." Hearn stared at him. "You were strange." "Thanks." The next time Ferris fell, he didn't get up right away. His breathing was shallow, his hands trembling. Tala scanned him quickly. "Minor strain. No refracture. But he's overexerted." "He will not stop," Hearn said. "No," Tala agreed. "He will not." By the 5th week, Ferris walked unassisted again. Not far. Not fast. But steady. He stood in the observation deck one evening, looking out at the stars. Am joined him, silent for a while. "You said it would heal," Am said eventually. "You were correct." Ferris nodded slowly. "Takes time. But yeah. You were afraid," Am said. "When you arrived, I analyzed your pupil dilation. Of course I was afraid. Then why did you smile?" Ferris turned to him. "Because being afraid doesn't mean I give up." Am said nothing for a long time. Then, "I would like to study that more." Ferris grinned. "Knock yourself out." Behind them, Dr. Hearn entered, his silhouette reflected in the glass. "You were cleared for return to base." Ferris turned. "Seriously, your body is within recovery thresholds. You require continued rest. But you are stable." Ferris gave a tired smile. "You know, I meant it when I said it would heal. Even if I wasn't sure how long it'd take." "I believe you did," Hearn said. "But next time, do not blow up a shuttle first." "I'll try." And with that, Ferris Grant walked still sore, still healing out of the infirmary, leaving behind 3 alien doctors who had seen something they didn't entirely understand. A man, broken and bloodied, who had whispered in a failing voice not a cry for help, but a quiet, stubborn promise. "It'll heal soon enough." The corridor lights dimmed to lavender as the station entered its rest cycle, but Ferris Grant remained wide awake. He leaned against the edge of the hydrotherapy tank, bare from the waist up, gauze still wrapped around his side. The water shimmered faintly with microcurrents, designed to soothe healing tissue and stimulate circulation. "I thought this was supposed to be relaxing," he muttered. "You are tensing your shoulders," said Tala, perched at the control console. "That defeats the point." Ferris adjusted his posture, wincing. "Feels like my ribs are laced with piano wire." "You requested accelerated muscular recovery. This is the process." "I thought it'd be more." Bubble bath, less medieval punishment. Tala made a note on the hovering panel. You have a high tolerance for discomfort but an unusually low patience for recovery protocols. Because I'm bored. And sore. And still bored. You are healing efficiently. But not exceptionally. Ferris draped an arm over the tank's edge, fingers dripping. What does exceptional look like? Tala blinked both sets of eyes. Not you. He laughed. Fair. The door opened with a low chime, and EM entered carrying a small tray of diagnostic chips. He paused when he saw Ferris still in the water. Cycle was scheduled to end 20 minutes ago. I know, Ferris said. I asked for an extension. EM placed the tray beside the console. Are you experiencing residual nerve disruption? Nope. Just avoiding the treadmill. You are aware that hydrotherapy is not a substitute for load-bearing activity. I'm aware that treadmills are a form of psychological warfare. M tilted his head. We do not engage in warfare. Ferris swirled the water lazily with one hand. Then you've never used one of those things after breaking your rib cage. Tala adjusted the tank settings and the water pulsed slightly against Ferris's torso. He flinched. Too much, she asked. Not enough to admit it. EM scanned the readouts. Your thoracic tissue is regenerating within expected margins. However, your left scapular stabilizers are underperforming. Which means you will lack overhead reach for several more days. Possibly longer. Ferris sighed. So no stretching for the top shelf. You should not be lifting anything regardless. Then what's the point of healing if I can't do anything with it? M blinked slowly. That is a philosophical question. Yeah, Ferris muttered. Guess it is. He emerged from the tank half an hour later, water clinging to the gauze tape and the scar lines beneath. Tala handed him a thermal wrap. He took it without comment, wrapping it across his shoulders as they walked. The corridors were quiet. Most of the medical staff had entered passive cycle. Hearn was still active, though, standing in front of a projection of Ferris's latest scans. Muscle density has stabilized, he said when the human approached. But your cardiovascular readings are elevated. I just climbed out of a glorified hot tub. You are also not sleeping, Hearn said without looking up. Ferris hesitated. That's not your business. You are under observation. It is entirely my business. I don't sleep well in silence, Ferris said. Back home, we've got city noise. Hum of traffic. Distant sirens. Comforting chaos. This station is optimized for sensory neutrality. It is not designed for chaos. Ferris shrugged. Neither was I. Hearn turned toward him. Your resilience is not in question. Your decision-making is. I'm following orders. You're following instinct. Same difference. No, Hearn said. It is not. He stepped closer, scanning Ferris's face. The incident with the shuttle, what were you expecting to find when you breached the emergency dock? Ferris looked away. I thought maybe someone else made it out. I didn't realize I was the only one until the hatch sealed behind me. Silence settled between them. You risked your life for a probability, Hearn said. I didn't think about the math. That is evident. Ferris ran a hand through his damp hair. You ever lose someone on your table? Yes. And did you stop operating the next day? No, then you get it. Hearn studied him. We do not process loss the way you do. That doesn't mean you don't feel it. Hearn didn't respond. He turned back to the scan projection. Ferris didn't follow. By the next cycle, Ferris had been cleared for assisted mobility drills in the station's artificial terrain chamber. The floor was a shifting composite of adaptive surfaces simulating varied planetary conditions. Ferris stood at the edge, eyeing the modules with suspicion. What's the setting? He asked. Desert slope, EM said. Low gravity. Uneven footing. Ferris raised an eyebrow. You sure this is where you want me? No, EM said. But it is where you need to be. Ferris stepped forward, boots crunching against synthetic grit. The surface adjusted beneath him, mimicking geological inconsistencies with unnerving accuracy. He staggered once, caught himself. Feels like walking on marbles. Intentionally, EM said. You must recondition your stabilizers. Ferris moved carefully, arms slightly raised for balance. Sweat beaded on his forehead after only a few minutes. I feel like a toddler learning to walk. You resemble one, Em agreed. Appreciate the honesty. After 10 minutes, he dropped to a knee, breathing hard. You may rest, Em said. I'm fine. You are not. Still not stopping. Em didn't argue. He simply waited. Ferris rose again, slower this time. He took another step, then another. On the 20th, he misjudged the incline, and his foot slid out from under him. He hit the ground hard, air knocked from his lungs. Em was beside him instantly but didn't touch him. Fracture. No, Ferris gasped. Just insult. You should not have attempted that angle. Yeah, Ferris muttered. I'm getting that theme. He stayed on the ground for a while, staring at the artificial sky projected above the chamber. It was a soft teal, dotted with unfamiliar constellations. This isn't Earth, he said. No, but I keep trying to walk like it is. Em knelt beside him. Adaptation is not instantaneous. No, Ferris said. But it better be soon. That evening, he sat in the infirmary's quiet lounge, watching steam rise from a mug of something vaguely resembling tea. It smelled like bark and citrus, tasted vaguely medicinal. Tala joined him, holding a data crystal. You requested access to planetary terrain models? Just needed context, he said. This station does not replicate Earth environments. I know. That's why I'm adjusting. Tala blinked. You are not required to exceed projections. I don't like projections. They expect me to fail at a rate I find insulting. This is not failure, Tala said. It is healing. Ferris didn't answer. He watched a transport ship drift past the observation window, its engines leaving a pale blue trail. Back home, he said quietly. We've got this saying. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Tala processed that. That implies persistence despite repeated injury. Exactly. That is. Inefficient. Sometimes, yeah. But it's how we win. Tala placed the data crystal on the table. Then perhaps inefficiency is your species' advantage. Ferris looked at the crystal. Maybe it is. At the end of that rest cycle, he stood alone in the terrain chamber again. No observers. No monitors. Just him and the sand. He adjusted his footing, set his jaw, and walked forward. He didn't fall. The artificial terrain chamber had been retracted and sterilized. In its place, a simple, flat rehabilitation floor stretched out under soft ambient lighting. Ferris stood at one end, arms folded, a slight tremor in his left hand betraying the effort it took to keep still. Across from him, a tall figure with elongated limbs and mottled green skin adjusted a small control device hanging from their belt. This isn't going to be a competition, Ferris said, eyeing the alien stance. It is not designed as such, responded the technician whose name tag read Dr. Luro. His voice carried a low harmonic undertone like a cello being tuned by a tired orchestra. Good, Ferris said, because I lose competitions. But I win bets. Luro tapped the control device. A series of low obstacles emerged from the floor bars, uneven platforms, a rotating disc. Nothing tall, nothing sharp, but enough to test a healing body with uneven joints and a still sensitive rib cage. Ferris exhaled slowly. Then he stepped forward. The first section was simple, a narrow balance beam barely raised. He took it slowly, eyes focused forward, arms loose. No pain, just stiffness. Halfway across, the platform shifted underfoot, a programmed wobble. His foot slipped, but he caught himself, readjusted, finished the beam without a word. Luro watched silently, entering notes into the console embedded in his left wrist. Next came the rotating disc. Ferris stepped onto it, crouched slightly to lower his center of gravity, and let it spin. The motion forced his torso to twist subtly, an unpleasant sensation that bloomed into an ache near the site of his previous injury. Still hurts, he muttered. Pain response is acceptable within rehabilitative thresholds, Luro replied. That's a very polite way of saying suck it up. I was not attempting to be polite. Ferris held the position as the disc slowed, then stepped off and moved to the final section, a low bar that required a shallow duck walk to pass beneath. He bent his knees, kept his spine straight, and dipped into the movement. Halfway through, his side spasmed. Not badly, but enough. He paused, breath-catching. Do not force continuation, Luro said, not moving. I'm not forcing. I'm adjusting. He shifted his weight to his right leg, tightened his abdominal muscles, and shuffled forward. The bar passed over his head. He stood up on the other side, panting. I need a chair. You may use the wall, Luro said. Ferris leaned back, arms hanging limp. Sweat dampened his collar. You know, I used to think physical therapy was just an excuse to make people do yoga with supervision. Yoga? Never mind. Luro approached, scanning Ferris's posture. Spinal alignment has improved. Respiratory efficiency remains below optimal. I'll breathe better when this pain stops stabbing me every third inhale. That is likely. They remained there a moment, Ferris catching his breath, Luro silently logging data. Then a chime sounded short and low. That signal means I'm done, right? Ferris asked. It signifies the end of this session's parameters. So that's a yes. Yes. Outside the chamber, the corridor was dim, indicators along the ceiling shifting from soft blue to a pale orange. Cycle change. Ferris limped slightly as he walked toward the rest suite, rubbing his left shoulder. Ian was waiting at the entrance, holding a compact medical scanner. You completed the level 2 circuit, Ian said. Barely. That was not expected until 2 days from now. I'm not good at waiting. Ian extended the scanner, running it along Ferris's side. No new tears. Bruising consistent with muscular strain. Ferris waved toward the lounge. Can we sit somewhere that doesn't smell like antiseptic? Ian followed him into the rest suite, which had been recently refitted with a few human-compatible chairs. Ferris dropped into one with a grunt. You have not rejoined your unit, Ian said. They've reassigned them. I'm technically in limbo. That sounds unstable. That's the point. It gives me time to finish healing. Ian tilted his head. And after that? Ferris leaned back, eyes closing. After that I go back. Not to the same assignment, probably. But somewhere. You are not anxious? I am. Just not in a way that changes anything. Ian sat across from him, folding his elongated fingers. Your body's recovery is nearly complete. But your neural activity suggests residual stress. Ferris opened one eye. Well, yeah. I almost died in a fireball. Not exactly something you just walk off. Yet you attempted to. There was a silence. Then Ferris chuckled softly. You remember that, huh? You told us you would heal. I had to believe that. Because the alternative wasn't survivable. Ian regarded him for a moment. Has your belief changed? Ferris looked up at the ceiling, where the lighting panels mimicked a soft twilight. No, but it's more grounded now. I know what it costs. Ian stood. I will update your file. You may rest. I might actually sleep this time. Good. The next morning, Ferris stood before a display panel at the far end of the infirmary, reviewing his clearance status. A small green icon blinked beside the word, Return Ready. He tapped it. A message appeared. Transport scheduled for planetary return. Medical clearance granted. Behind him, Dr. Huron approached, hands clasped behind his back. You are leaving. That's what the blinking light says. Your recovery exceeded projected timelines. I had a good audience. Huron moved to stand beside him. You ignored several warnings, and you aggravated your injuries twice. And I still made it out. Huron didn't argue. Instead, he reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out a small, rectangular object wrapped in transparent mesh. This was found among the shuttle debris. It was slated for disposal. Ferris took the object. It was a charred photo fused at one corner, but still legible. A man in uniform standing in front of a small Earth outpost. He touched the edge gently. Didn't think anything made it out of that. Huron waited. You insisted on walking again before you could stand. You pursued movement before balance. That is not logical. It's not meant to be. It's human. Huron gave the smallest nod. It is. Later that cycle, Ferris stood at the airlock, dressed in a fresh uniform. The gauze was gone. The limp had faded. Only a faint stiffness in his shoulder remained a reminder, not a limitation. Tala, Em, and Hurin stood opposite him. None spoke at first. Then Tala stepped forward. You will inform your superiors of your experience? I'll tell them the truth, that you saved my life, and that you let me try to save the rest of it myself. Em offered a small vial. Nutrient compounds. For the journey. Ferris took it. Thanks. I'm told the ship food tastes like boiled regret. Hurin extended a hand, an unusual gesture for his species. Ferris took it. You are stable, Hurin said, but not invincible. Noted. The airlock opened. Ferris stepped inside and turned once. You know, he said, if you ever want to study more humans, start with our gym injuries. You'll learn everything about how dumb and determined we are. We have already begun, Em said. The door closed. As the transport pulled away from the station, Ferris watched the stars blur past, hand resting lightly over the faint scar beneath his uniform. It had hurt. It had healed. And that was enough.